Media has a story, right? Sports content has a story, but now the athlete is the prominent figure when it comes to initiating first engagement of media. So if you can go direct to consumer, right, then you can go direct to collective. And the way we look at ourselves is really being able to.
So hold on. Let's define that, direct to collective. What are you saying that basically instead of going one-to-one to a consumer, now you are essentially being able to engage channels with many people behind it, is that correct?
Bingo. When you search the internet or when you look at various apps and the companies we invested in, everybody has their own app, right? So that means you have to leave one place, go into another, leave another app, and so there's no cohesion. And what we mean collective to one or one direct to collective is you have a collective voice of hyper genres that are all a part of a subject matter, all a part of a product, all a part of a utility, right? And so we all kind of heard about Outer Edge, right, from various different channels, various different mediums, but this kind of one to a direct audience and a collective to a direct voice is kind of what we're aiming for in Web3.
I mean, it sounds like megaphone on megaphone. Speaking of which, Haider, you're running marketing. I'm trying to keep it vertical if you can. You're running marketing for what I believe is one of the true iconic brands in the space. I've been leading marketing efforts for hundreds of brands in this industry since 2014. But I've got to say, probably the most elegant rebrand, and there's been a series of issues, but at OKX, you removed one letter and turned it into an icon. How'd you do that?
Well, I think it was pretty simple. I think our evolution, when the whole COVID thing happened, I think people were sitting at home and they began to really interact with crypto ecosystems. And you saw the rise of NFTs, you saw a huge market get built up around DeFi. So when we entered 2022, it was pretty apparent to us that our platform, our roadmap, our engineering efforts were going into these two worlds. We're known as a centralized exchange that's been around for a while, and we were developing these Web3 DeFi experiences for people. And I think, Baron, you were touching on it, people have to go from one network to another. And for us, interoperability is really important. And we felt, hey, we've got all these customers, they already use Web3 and DeFi, how can we actually build that on top of the strong platform we have called OKX, or OKEX back then? But then the EX stood for exchange, right? And we were becoming more than an exchange, we were becoming a cross-platform. So the emphasis needed to be on the X, not the EX. That's the genesis behind why we decided we'd get rid of the letter E, and coincidentally for us, we are now the only three-letter exchange, right, David?
Wait, I think there's one more. Well, maybe there was until, was it November or so?
I think so.
Something like that.
I think Baron had something to do with it.
So, okay, well, you guys, I would say, both have kind of a bit of a tremendous responsibility on your shoulders. Iconic brands, iconic entrepreneurs and investors who are deeply in Web3. I mean, I can see from both of you how passionate both of you are for this community and for this industry. How are you kind of shouldering that responsibility? What are you doing to educate the millions of people who are watching and reading the words from both of you? Baron, let's start with you. Kind of, how are you using education as a tool to educate the masses?
I think it's more about activation. When we think about the way people, use assets, digital assets, apps, their camera, claiming rewards, a Groupon, all of those are just actions and interactions.
It's teach by doing.
It's taught by doing, yes. I think where we hit a major roadblock maybe 2 years ago and where we are now is at this crux, where we can't communicate the language still to this day, right? People are having a hard time understanding what it means, right? And that's because we led with intelligence, information, and all of this information that was necessary and completely unnecessary, right? And so now the way we look at it is it's going to be language, communication, and activation, right? Because mint, claim, you know what I mean, redeem, all of those things are words and interactions that we had to get accustomed to when we were loading up coupons or Groupons.
Mint means something very different before crypto.
Yes, totally. Like, so minting was something new for people, right? But, you know, I feel like minting means claim, right? And so people always get emails about claiming, like, claim your subscription, claim your prize, claim your rewards. So we just have to figure out, you know, how to create language and also how to adopt culture. Culture creates language, and that language becomes the softer version of what the interaction is.
And so, I mean, theoretically then, you're basically saying that we should have a language that evolves with kind of the users of the platform, and it's going to happen naturally.
Yeah, I just never saw Facebook come out or, you know, Twitter come out and say, yo, we're a Web2 platform. Like, we would have been completely confused back then. And so I think when we are talking about Web3, we have to like talk about it, but we have to talk about what it is that we're doing in Web3 to give people access.
Well, I've got to bring Haider in then, because this is something that, well, you have a few different megaphones here. Not only do you have a platform that's used by millions of people, but you advertise, you sponsor some of the iconic sporting events, for example, all over the world. How are you educating consumers? How are you bringing millions into the fold?
I want to double down on what Baron said. I think you got to talk about it. You got to create culture around it. I think there's no shortcut to that, and I love what you said. Saying that you're a Web3 company is actually less impactful than saying what you actually do. What's the utility that you're providing? So the way I like to explain DeFi, self-hosted, Web3 wallets, whatever nomenclature language you guys want to use, is imagine that now we all have the ability to download a software or download an application on our phone that allows all of us to be our own bank. But that bank is way better than any other bank we all bank with. I mean, look, I put a lot of my money in Chase. I bank with them, you know, that's where I receive my
Silicon
payroll.
Valley Bank?
No, definitely not. Thank God. But imagine if you have this software on your computer, on your phone, and it makes you the Chase Bank. But this Chase Bank has more horsepower than the original Chase Bank. And the way this Chase Bank has more horsepower is that it allows you to put your house deed in your checking account. It allows you to put other digital assets that can be converted into digital artifacts into this bank account. And guess what? You don't have to go to a branch. You don't have to talk to a teller. You are in control. You have full custody of your assets. And it's completely interoperable, meaning today, if you want to send something from Chase to Wells Fargo, you got to send a wire. Chase has this feature called QuickPay, Zelle QuickPay, that allows people to, you know, operate within the network or Zelle network, but it's still not fully interoperable. What these new softwares, Web3 hosted wallets allow you to do is be your own bank and play within multiple networks that you were talking about.
And Zelle does not work very well internationally, I should
It's
mention.
true. And, you know, now if I'm in Singapore and Baron, you're here, and I'm like, hey, Baron, I need that Bitcoin from you because, you know, XYZ. I send him my send address or receive address, and he'll ship that over to me. No problem. He doesn't have to go to a bank. He doesn't have to talk to anybody, yada, yada, yada. And that's not just true with crypto assets. It's true with NFTs. It's true with GameFi tokens. It's not too far off where we're going to start to see our deeds of real estate or, you know, other assets show up on a Web3 wallet.
So Haider, when you are broadcasting this message, who are you finding is receiving it? Because actually, Baron, I want to talk to you about kind of how you're engaging kids, which is something you've spent a lot of time doing too. But Haider, what are the demographics that are really picking this up today? I mean, you're running marketing, you probably see a lot of information.
What's interesting and very clear, this is the second crypto company I've I'm at. I was at blockchain.com as the head of growth. I got to see a lot of data. And what's conclusive in the data, I can tell you, is markets like Venezuela, Turkey, Pakistan, where there's hyperinflation, Lebanon, those users have a sense of urgency to explore these technologies and use them and learn them because they need it. They can't access their value from banks anymore. They have hyperinflation. They can't invest in anything. Unfortunately, we're not safe from this anymore. You're seeing what's happening with the banking industry. So I think it requires that, David, that sense of urgency for people to then go and say, now I gotta learn it, I don't have a choice. And unfortunately, we're seeing that cultural shift in the United States, but oftentimes it happens in those hyperinflation markets.
Sad that that's the reason why people adopt Bitcoin in America, because they literally need to. But Baron, you, as I said, you've been trying to educate people, even all the way down to kids. You've had a fabulously popular series for children before. Are you trying to go and get even kids involved in Web3 in some way?
Yeah, I would say my son has an NFT collection, and I need to help him like mint it on his own. But he saw what I was doing. Flip, my co-founder at MTU. Him and my son are like best friends. They just can like draw and
How
like.
old's your son?
He's 7. So
7 years old with an NFT collection.
And so he was inspired to make his 100 monsters, right? His 100 LA monsters. And it was because like he got a chance to see the work that Flip was doing, building out our history of the game museum, or his Rehydrate metaverse, right? Meditation metaverse. And so as a kid, he's looking at his iPad and he's like, yo, I'm watching these dumbass YouTube videos and they're just like edited cuts of a cut. Like he's like, I want to be able to explore that. And I think for us, like our teachings are, get them early. Get them as creators early, right? I mean, who knows? My son could, wind up becoming the next Flip. You know what I mean? And so imagine how many opportunities that we may have missed by saying, you know what? Oh, that's great schoolwork, right? And then, there's rain in LA, it just so happens, and you put all these pictures in a box, right? And that box get wet. And now when he goes back and he's 25, 26 years old, he's like, Daddy, where my paint? It's just like, damn, I'm a terrible parent, right? But now I can show him and digitize what he's doing and show him his work.
It's so much better. I don't know about you, but like my mom tried to save some of those paintings.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, they didn't all last.
But think about like your first shoes. Like when you buy your child your first shoes, usually you keep their first set of shoes. I think when we're talking about that sits in the same wallet as your house deed, right? We're building slick images, and the thought was, how do you look at something like a Getty image and say, well, damn, there's no competition, right? How can we look at photography and photos and family archives and, Facebook started through pictures, right? So for us, it's like, how can we create a library, a history, a storytelling experience, right? Where we know that right where this blockchain sits, right, we own that.
And so, you're really humanizing Web3. It's not now about speculation by any means. It's not about the technology for technology's sake. It's because it literally can make people's lives better.
Yeah, I feel like it just streamlines order, right? We need a little bit of order, and we also need to like gravitate to the people that are doing real shit. You know what I mean? It's like we are tired of the celebrity being handed to us and not really having any background or any story. We're tired of the athlete being the person that is the #1 player on our sports franchise team, and we know nothing about them, and then they ultimately fail us, but we don't know if they're failing us or not. You know what I mean? And so, you look at the current state of sports, and we want to know the DNA around people. And so I think it's inevitable as we continue to like move forward in this space, information, data, who you are, getting to know you, that is the next wave of like what we had to go through.
That's interesting. So like the data permanence that could live on a blockchain, if you permission it later on, can basically, there's a museum sitting on the internet in the future.
Yep.
That could be unlocked at any given time.
Absolutely.
I haven't thought about this that way before.
We say in S.L.I.C, picture says 1,000 words, and now a picture and an image can last 4,000 years. And so that's our slogan for S.L.I.C Images.
I like it. That sounds like something Haider would make up.
Well, I'd love to help. We would love to help. We have a product which allows anyone in here to download our OKX wallet, and you can simply create, mint, and then publish your NFT in a matter of minutes. So, we'd love to help your son. I think it was giving me ideas about how we can go create youth programs. And we'd love to partner with you guys.
That'd be awesome.
We'll, see if we can make it happen.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, I'm glad we're creating some news up here, but I want to get more into kind of what disruption really means. Because typically when you're disrupting someone or something. Haider, who loses as you build out kind of the new version of finance?
Wow. I think line of sight is legacy wallets. I think David, Baron, you guys know there were a lot of legacy wallets that started at the formation of Bitcoin. And the last 2 years have been really interesting. The amount of innovation packed in the last 2 years is insane. And so now the new generation wallets are so further out competing the legacy wallets, because people are not just looking for a MetaMask where you can host or you can custody your assets. They want to do more with their assets. They want those assets to be able to operate within different networks without having to send and receive multiple times and swapping between different networks. So the future of wallets are ultimately wallets that are completely interoperable. We think it's very, very important. You cannot create a walled garden in a self-hosted environment.
Baron, you seem to agree?
I was speaking on the NBA Tech Summit, with all the NBA partners, and my question was to everyone on the panel was, if I was a first-time NBA fan and I wanted to adopt an NFT or buy an NFT, which one would you tell me to buy? Or where do I go to buy it? And so you got OpenAI, you got SoRare, you got Dapper, you got Meta. Like, where would I go to have a menu and a view of?
And sometimes you literally can't have all of those on one app.
You cannot, but interoperability has to happen because Meta needs it, Dapper needs it, SoRare needs it, the NBA needs it, the players need it, and then we as NBA fans and media and people, we have a place that we can find everything and participate.
So actually I want to talk a little bit about that as in terms of fan participation. I'm sure you've been thinking a ton about it. How do you